Time for some first impressions, 2 from Fragrance World and 2 from Arabiyat Prestige. Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for another video where I'm going to share with you my initial impressions on 4 brand new scents for my collection. 2 of them come from the brand of Fragrance World and they're called Absolute Oud Magnificent 7, and this one is a clone of YSL's M7 Oud Absolute. And the second one, the first one has been around for a while. The second one is called Historic Cedar, and this one is apparently cloning Pentaligon's Halfeti Cedar. Now, I'm not too sure if that's correct because I've never tried the original fragrance. And then the other 2 come from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige, and they're called Raees and Raaes Luxury Edition. Now, the blue one, the Raees, is supposedly a clone of Armani's Acqua di Gio Profondo, and the one that's called Raees Luxury Edition is supposedly a clone of Armani's Acqua di Gio Profumo. So, today I'm going to share my initial impressions on those 4 scents. The first 2 scents that I'm going to be talking about will be the ones from the brand of Fragrance World, and I'm going to start with Absolute Oud Magnificent 7. As I said, this is a clone of M7 Oud Absolute from YSL. Now, it's been a while since I've tried the original fragrance, but it's an agar oud based fragrance that's done in a very designer way, so that's very easy to wear. And first of all, bottle wise, it's pretty similar to the original fragrance, the offering from from Fragrance World. It's pretty similar to the way that the original fragrance looks. So if you're familiar with the way that the original looks, you'll immediately recognize what Absolute Oud Magnificent 7 is actually trying to do. And to be honest, it's actually quite similar to the original fragrance. It has this agar oud note, which is done in a very designer way, so it's not too animalic, it's not too animalic, it's not animalic at all, it's not skanky or anything like that. It's just in here so that you can wear agar oud based fragrance. The opening, there's a bit of freshness, there's something like a mandarin or orange note that gives this one a bit of a freshness in the opening. But the dry down is all about the agar oud that's aided by some ambery sweetness. There's also maybe a hint of something like labdanum, which gives it a bit of a balsamic feel. All around, this actually is done quite nicely and smells very, very nicely. And at least from what I remember, the original fragrance smelling, this seems to be quite close to the original scent. It's woody, it's slightly balsamic, there's quite a bit of ambery sweetness, and there's that agar oud note in here, which gives it a very interesting scent. Now, this in a way smells similar to Versace Noir, Oud Noir, also distantly similar to something like Gucci Intense Oud, although the Gucci offering definitely has a stronger agar oud note. The agar oud note in M7 here, Absolute Oud Magnificent 7, is actually a lot softer. But again, I don't think this is a fragrance that's super safe for blind buying. Definitely try this one first, because even though the agar oud note is done in a very civilized way and non-animalic way, this still probably won't be up to the liking of everybody. But so far this seems to be done quite nicely and the quality is definitely good. I won't be talking about performance because these are initial impressions, but so far this smells quite nice. The next one that I'm going to quickly talk about will be Historic Cedar from, again, from Fragrance World. This is actually one of the brand new releases from the brand of Fragrance World, and this has been heavily inspired by Halfeti Cedar from Pentaligon's, apparently, or I cannot confirm that because I've not tried the original fragrance, but I can tell you what I pick up out of Historic Cedar. Now, this is a very woody fragrance. That's the first thing. Can probably guess that by the name as well. And actually the sprayer is very nice. It's a pressurized sprayer, something that I've noticed lately. Quite a few scents from Fragrance World have come up with equipped with a pressurized sprayer, and I absolutely love this fact. Now, this is a very woody fragrance. The opening is also very boozy. I definitely pick up a rum note in here in the opening. There is also some spices, but there's some fruity sweetness in here. I think there's a peach note in this one. That makes the opening quite interesting because it's woody, slightly spicy, with a lot of booziness and also quite a bit of fruity sweetness. When this goes into the dry down, you lose some of that spiciness from the opening, some of that peach, the peach note is almost completely gone by the time this goes into the dry down. And the dry down is this interesting mix of quite a strong cedar wood note, which is basically the most dominant note in this fragrance, and some ambery sweetness. It's a very interesting scent that I cannot say, at least for the moment, that I'm a huge fan of the dry down, but the opening is very interesting because of the inclusion of the rum note and some of that fruity sweetness. But the dry down is a lot more woody, and there's definitely quite a bit of ambery sweetness. It's supposedly a unisex scent that, at least to my nose, smells quite strong, leans quite strong to the masculine side. So far seems to be having a decent performance, but again, I'm not going to talk about performance in details, and seems to be like having a bit of an age factor, a bit of a mature scent, and also seems to be quite a dressed up scent. All around an interesting offering from the brand of fragrance world. And now let's move on to the two offerings from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige and my perfumes that are called Raees and Raaes Luxury Edition. Now those two are very interesting scents that are not very well known, but I really was excited to try both of them because I've heard some really nice things about both. As I said, both of them are cloning, or supposedly are clones of Acqua di Gio scents. The blue one is supposedly Acqua di Gio Profondo and the black one is Acqua di Gio Profumo. But I'll tell you something straight up, they're not really clones. There's something that definitely is heavily inspired by those two original scents, but they have a very strong twist on them. You should not think of those two as being straight up clones. Let's talk about the blue one first, the one that's supposedly a clone of Profondo. This is the sprayer in action. It's not exactly pressurized, but definitely a strong sprayer. And forgot to mention one interesting part about those two scents. Both come in 180 milliliter bottle sizes, so you're really getting quite a lot of juice for your money with those two. Now the opening here is quite interesting because it carries some of the Profondo DNA, some of the Profondo scent, but it has heavy twist. You get some of the aquaticness, some of the freshness of Profondo, but you also get quite a bit of sweetness. And the opening, to my nose, feels like a very interesting mix between Profondo, but also something like Paco Rabanne's Invictus Aqua, or maybe something like Rasasi Hawas. You get quite a bit of bubblegummy sweetness that goes along with the aquatic freshness of the original scent. And it's a very interesting mix. There may be a hint of some spices and some oud somewhere in the background, but to me the opening is dominated by the aquatic freshness and that bubblegummy sweetness. It's a very interesting scent. On the dry down, this lasts for about 1 hour, and then when this starts to go into the mid dry down, this is where it actually gets closer to Profondo. You lose some of that bubblegummy sweetness and you're left with this sort of aquatic scent of the Profondo. Still not a one-to-one clone on the dry down. This still feels quite a bit sweeter compared to the original scent, but definitely on the dry down is where this can be compared to Profondo. All around a very interesting mix of scents that Arabiyat Prestige have done with the scent of Raaes. Again, I won't talk about performance here because I've literally opened them earlier today, but so far this one seems to be having a quite good performance. And moving on to the second one from Arabiyat Prestige in the Raaes line, that's called Luxury Edition. This one supposedly smelling like Acqua di Gio Profumo. Now for me, Profumo is the best flanker in the Acqua di Gio line. I really like the original scent, and I was having high hopes from Raaes Luxury Edition because I was really hoping that this will be very similar to Acqua di Gio Profumo. Again, sprayer in action, very nice strong sprayer with good distribution. But this actually, again, doesn't feel like a clone, like a straight up clone of Profumo, just like the other Raaes. The opening here is similar to Profumo, but also feels quite different in the same time. It feels a little bit fresher compared to Profumo to my nose. Also, this feels quite a bit more spicy. There's a rosemary note in here that's quite strong in the early, life of the fragrance on your skin. And it's an interesting sort of a spicy, slightly sweeter take on the original scent itself. And to be honest, when I smelled this up close immediately after spraying, I cannot say that it reminds me very strongly of Acqua di Gio Profumo. I was hoping for something that's better, or closer, not better. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad fragrance, quite the opposite. The quality on both of them seems to be very, very nice, but this is not super close to Profumo, it's especially in the opening. On the dry down is where this gets closer to Profumo, but again this feels a little bit more spicy, feels a little bit sweeter compared to Profumo, and also it lacks the incense note now of the original fragrance, and that's the note that I like the most in the original scent. Now there is a hint of incense, but not as strong as the one that I get out of the original fragrance. Still though, on the dry down this is where it gets somewhat closer to Profumo, but again don't think of this one as a straight up clone of Acqua di Gio Profumo. Again, think of it as something with a heavy twist. Again, I won't be talking too much about performance because again, literally I opened up this fragrance earlier today. So far seems to be having adequate performance, but at least initially I think that the other Raees, the OG Raees, actually seems to be feeling a little bit stronger, at least from my early impressions. And in the end, a few final thoughts. Really two very interesting offerings from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige in the Raees line. Very interesting bottle size, 180 milliliter bottle size. You know, both fragrances have very, very high quality and are interesting twists onto original creations from the brand of Armani and the Acqua di Gio line. And then when it comes to the two scents from Fragrance World, this one, which is called Absolute Oud Magnificent 7, is a nicely done agar oud based fragrance that's very easy to wear in my opinion. But again, I think that this one should be tried before it's bought, because still agar oud is not a note that everybody likes. And when it comes to historic cedar, this one is a very interesting woody fragrance that has a very nice opening. In fact, I really like the opening that feels kind of boozy. It's fruity sweet along with that woodiness from a very strong cedar oud note, or an interesting scent that's unisex and leans to the feminine side, to the masculine side, excuse me, in my opinion. Or I'm quite happy with today's mini fragrance haul and first impressions video. So guys, in today's video I shared my initial impressions on 4 new scents for my collection, 2 of them from Fragrance World and 2 from Arabiyat Prestige. I hope that you found this video interesting to watch. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.